All right, folks, we are moving right along and we are on time for our next panel, which I will let Caesar introduce.
Hey, folks. I am really pleased to introduce our new panel. We're right on time at 11 a.m. So it means we're going to get the full hour with this group, which is awesome. We've got Brit Cava, Ann Jackson, Julie Kim, Erin Simpler Kellet, and our moderator is Brittany Fong. So these are some absolute superstars in the Data+Women world, and also they've done a lot to start meetups, start the conversation, and really propel it's become a movement, and a very powerful movement, and I absolutely love this. I think I've seen all of our panelists shuffle on, so I'll let everybody start up their cameras so we can get started. And I will hand it over to the panel. I see Erin coming online, and there's Ann. And Julie. And let me go through, and I will pass this over to Brittany. I don't see Brittany's camera yet. And I saw, oh, there we go. So let me go ahead and pass this on.
Awesome. All right, so I'm just going to give a little introduction about Data+Women. I think that a lot of people already have a general idea about what it is, but the first meeting was in 2014 at the Tableau conference, and ever since that conference, we've had a session there annually, so it's been a pretty good turnout, and a lot of really excited people to talk about Data+Women. And you can find, I guess, some more information, or you can follow what's happening in general in the Data+Women channels if you look up #Data+Women on Twitter. So I'm just gonna have everyone go around and do introductions. I can start. I'm Brittany Fong, and I'm in the DC area, and I've been working with, or I guess, co-leading a Data+Women group for about 2 years now. Anne, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, absolutely. I'm guessing you guys can hear me okay?
Yep.
Perfect. My name is Ann Jackson. I am located in the Phoenix, Arizona area. I attended my first Data+Women Meetup at conference at 2016, and since then I have been injected into that community. I run a local Phoenix meetup with a fellow person in the Tableau community.
Awesome. Erin?
Cool. Hey, Erin Simpler Kellet. I'm like Brittany, I'm in the DC area and have been a co-organizer of the DC Data+Women group for a little over 2 years.
Julie?
Hi, I'm Julie Kim. I'm also an organizer with Brittany and Erin in the DC area.
And Brit?
Hi, everyone. My name is Brit Cava, and I'm the co-founder of a Data+Women group called She Talks Data. We're based in the Bay Area, but we have a couple other chapters throughout the US. So that's pretty exciting. And I'm looking forward to the conversations today.
Awesome. So to get the conversation started, what inspired you most to get involved with Data+Women? And that can be anyone.
I can start. When Brittany asked me to be a co-organizer of the a Data+Women meetup group that she and a couple other people wanted to start, I really jumped at it because I was inspired by like Anne. I was inspired by the conversations from the 2016 Data+Women discussions at the Tableau customer conference. And why I was inspired by that is because I had some experiences at work that had really tried my confidence. Because like a lot of Tableau people, I didn't have a traditional technical background, and I found myself having to work a lot harder to get trust for technical issues compared to some of my colleagues. And it got to the point where I was even signing emails that I wrote with a male colleague's name and my name to get a better response. And I actually did get a better response. So I didn't realize that other people were having these same issues until we started talking about it at the Tableau customer conference. So I really wanted to help facilitate more of these conversations so we can share techniques for overcoming some of these barriers.
Yeah, and I'll kind of piggyback off that and say, I think, Erin, my experience is very similar. One of the things that I recognized really quickly at the 2016 talk was just the authenticity. And I think I was overwhelmed with emotions about everything that I was experiencing because it really resonated with what things that have impacted me in my career. And so that was my big takeaway is this is something that should exist outside of a 1-week bubble and something that I should be doing with peers and colleagues and women in my own community. So I felt extremely motivated to do that. I'm also someone who's very prominently run a Tableau user group, and a Tableau user group just isn't the right forum to have a lot of these conversations. You'll have these sort of sidebars. And so I wanted something that was much more where the conversation, the sidebar was the priority, the main focus of why we were having conversations, as opposed to just, here's Tableau and it's awesome, which it is, but there's more work to be done.
I think for me, one of my motivations was I had moved to across country to a new area and I didn't know anybody. And after, going to the conference and learning about other women in the analytics space, I found myself in this tech bubble and feeling a lot of imposter syndrome and really struggling with all this stuff that I felt like I needed to learn. And I didn't have like a support system to really, learn from and just lean to. So that's how I got started with starting a chapter in my area, kind of selfishly, because I really needed that like support network and I needed to build a new like sense of community so that I could feel like I belonged in a new space and was supported more holistically and had like a group that I could turn to share experiences and learn how to overcome some challenges at work. So I think it's also a great way to, start off in a new place, or there's always an opportunity to create a community that you need, even if it doesn't exist yet.
Same thing actually with everyone. My motivation is to actually meet people with similar challenges that we have, and you gain some network within your workspace, but especially for outside, that you want to actually develop more so. And actually, it's one of a greater way to expand your network and ask for help and learn, and also give what you can give. Meeting with high school students or college students who might be working to get to where they need to get to in the data field, and you can give some advice that, and also you learn from them back and forth. So the people is the main motivation for me, like anyone else on this panel as well.
Awesome. So a lot of people on this call or listening want some information about the actual meetup groups. So could everybody just give a little bit of an overview, like how often do you meet? How big are your groups? What kinds of topics are you covering?
I can start on this one. So I'll say that in Phoenix, it's actually quite small. When we first started, we had a goal of quarterly, and we have probably 15 to 25 people that are interested. I'd say we've kind of dropped our frequency a little bit just based on, people's lives changing and other challenges and priorities, but it's really small. And I say this kind of two things. One, it's kind of small, so that can be kind of difficult. But the other thing is we've had a lot of value with it being small, because what we had envisioned for the type of meetups that were there was an opportunity to be seen. I don't want it to be a presentation where you're an audience member. I want there to be really active participation. And I think when you keep it small, it really allows for those opportunities. So that's really what we've always tried to do. And that takes shape in the form of, we've had just coffee meetups where we sit for like 2 hours on a Saturday morning and just talk about where we are in our lives. Ask me questions, I'll ask you questions. We all get smarter as a result. One of the cooler things that we did, which was more technically oriented, was we did like a resume workshop one time where we actually let's build out resumes using Tableau and post it on Tableau Public to help kind of move everyone's skill up and do kind of fun things. And it was nice because we also had a backdrop of a hiring manager saying, here's the things that I find to be important that you should include on your resume. So it really runs the gamut, but it's much more, I'd say, on the softer side of things in terms of communication, in terms of it being a more intimate experience.
So for She Talks Data, we meet once a month, and our format is also really small, and we actually limit our attendees to 25. And I echo what Anne said. It does still, it just brings a lot more value, and it feels a lot more intimate and comfortable to have tough conversations, or just to really like be vulnerable and ask questions. So a lot of times we tend to invite speakers that can touch really like holistic topics. So we do have people who come in who are engineers or data scientists and give very technical talks, but we also try to include people who can come in and really kind of address the non-technical side of well-being. So as an example, we had a psychologist come one time and talk to us about how we can combat feelings of imposter syndrome and kind of work through and process that. So we really wanted to be able to not be just like another, you know, technical talk somebody goes to, because there's so many of those. So we really wanted to make it more holistic. And the other thing we do is we like to do icebreakers and make it really social and just fun, and not, you know, formal or uptight. So I even love the idea of like even meeting at coffee shops. Things that's awesome. We try to make it like brunch and make it fun in that way too. So.
For DC group, we meet about quarterly. With Erin, actually can speak to that too. We do different kind of meetups. We do happy hours, so we would be more informal, like the coffee shop, where we usually meet actually during the happy hour. We also actually go out to high school. We do have a group in Maryland that we partner up sometimes to offer. We will be a part of the high school like event, part of the event, so they know about the data and the data platform, and with the data what they can do with it, so that kind of stuff. And we also invite professional workers to come to talk about data, and we have technical talks as well. So we try to keep it up, but usually about quarterly. Erin, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so our events have ranged in for a number of people from 20 or so up to almost 100. If we do have a larger event, like Anna and Britt have said, we do try and include like small group discussions as part of that event, so that there is more of that kind of personal interaction. But it really ranges. We tend to have, or what we've tried to do is do one event about soft skills like leadership, and then another event about technical. So we kind of switch off.
Awesome. And what would be some of the first steps for getting started? Like, how are you marketing your event? Where are you getting people to register? Any, I guess, advice for someone who's getting ready to try and start their own group?
When Chloe and I started She Talks Data, one of the first things we did was we just brainstormed what our strengths were. So we talked through like what value can we even bring to this space. And for us, we knew that we were good community builders, and we saw like community as a path to inciting change within like the Data+Women space. So once we figured out what our strengths were, we thought about what were the other groups in the area that were maybe related, and what were something that we could bring to the table that would be different and unique. And for us, you know, we saw a lot of very purely technical meetups that were extremely large and very, you know, they're always like sponsored by some big tech names. There was always kind of like this sales vibe too. So we knew that we wanted to do something different. And I think by playing to our strengths and differentiating our meetup and how we organize and what our topics are, I think it really helped us like find fulfillment in facilitating, because it does take a lot of work to do these. So if you can make sure that, you know, it's still something you're passionate about, it's so much easier and it's more enjoyable, right? To actually like put in the work to organize and attend the events, especially if you do them frequently, like we try to. So I would definitely recommend thinking about your strengths and what could differentiate yourself.
Yeah, I would just say, I think one of the keys to our success starting out was just keeping it small. Like there's a big sense that you need to touch everyone. Like I want to talk to every single woman in Phoenix and have them come to my group, my meetup, and really make a difference in that regard. But what's nice that I saw at least is once you get started, maybe there's just 5 people there. You're still making an impact and a difference. You're still growing that network, and you're still getting the results that you want. It's going to take some time for it to grow. And actually, I think that can be quite helpful as well, because I think things are going to evolve and change, and how you service your community may change depending on the number of people. That's probably been the best thing that we did kind of starting out, is not being overly ambitious and not having unrealistic expectations, because anyone showing up is a positive result from my perspective.
For the C group, we have about 4 different organizers, so that's really helpful for us. And I think the way we started, I just reached out to Brittany, and then Brittany she was thinking the same thing. She was talking to Emily about it, and Erin about it. So it was kind of natural to get people together who was, have the same passion and, mindset about what we want to do for the community. So definitely, if you just start talking to people and see whether they're interested in opening a meetup group locally or do something together, I think that's a good support to start.
Yeah, and a couple logistics things. So we got advice from different community leaders in the data community in DC. So other, like Britt said, other groups, we talked to them and just kind of figured out what they were doing and got tips and advice from them. And we also created a meetup group. So we host our groups on meetup.com, and that's been really helpful for finding new members and organizing our events. And then we wrote a mission statement and then planned our inaugural event.
All right, so I think that a question that everybody has when they see Data+Women is, what about the men? So do you have men that come to your event, and how do they play a part? What do you see their role in Data+Women, and how can we encourage them to attend more?
So for most of our events, men are encouraged to attend, and we put it in the invite or in the event description. And we've actually, so one kind of cool story, we had some men actually be really surprised to learn of the experiences of their female counterparts in the small group discussions. Like one guy actually, his key takeaway was that he didn't realize that that there were these kind of issues going on. And so it did help increase his awareness. So we, I would say we still sometimes talking to some guys, they found it a little bit weird to attend. But other events they don't. And yeah, I'm also eager to hear more advice on how to get more men to attend.
I'll say that we've always kind of said women get preferential treatment, right? Like I don't feel bad or guilty saying that, but like if it's a limited event, then women are going to get the first shot to come in just by definition. I certainly always tell people, men specifically, that they're absolutely welcome and invited. And it's actually a great opportunity for them to come learn more about different perspectives and peers in their industry, things that they might not be hearing. Particularly on like more broader scales, like when we have larger events like this is a really great example. I always highly encourage men to come and understand what it is that we're talking about. But because it's by nature, from my perspective, a women's event, like I think women first is always going to be a thing for me. And I think it's okay for it to be first, but it's always inclusive of all types. And I think that I'll give you an example, like at the resume workshop that we did, we had a lot of men there. Actually, we had a lot of students, a lot of college students who had not yet graduated, and there was a good mixture of peers in the same class. And I think having both men and women there was actually quite helpful for seeing how they work together and what questions they had for that hiring manager.
I think that's a great point, Anne, because it also is a little tougher, I think, if your meetups are on the smaller side, because I think it's easier to feel uncomfortable if you're different than everyone else in the room, right? Especially in a small setting. But we do something similar where we always welcome men, but we do say, if all the spots fill up and there's a woman who wants a seat, we're going to ask that you volunteer to give your seat up. But that hasn't happened for us yet, but we do definitely want to make sure like we create the space for women. But in terms of like participation at our events, men have come, but it hasn't been, it's almost kind of like we just have it's like a regular meetup. Like it hasn't been like any weird, like, oh, you're the man in the room, what do you think about this? Or like, you know, we don't make any men who come feel like the token man, or like we try to welcome and not make them feel uncomfortable, and just talk like human beings, one-on-one to each other, and like about whatever the topic is that day. It's also been a cool opportunity because one time I recall I talked to somebody who was interested in hiring more women to their team. So we got to talk about, you know, what it's like as a woman and the interview experience, and maybe some of the biases and things that kind of get in the way of women like getting great jobs and getting the pay they deserve, and having just like real conversations like that, which I think is amazing. So I think it's so important to try to include men, but as Anne said, making sure that we still make sure have seats for women who are interested in the event.
We've had some company executives or the managers actually coming to Data+Women events to hire. So we had quite a few men actually joining our group. I think it just start talking amongst your colleagues and people that you talk to, just that they're welcome to come. They do ask, like, am I allowed to come? Like, of course you're allowed to come. And I think being inclusive, that means that everyone has a voice, not only a seat at the table, right? So we encourage everyone to come in, and actually we gain insight, or we provide insight to them. So I think just openly talking about it to anyone, you know, especially men, actually, there's a lot of challenges that we deal with. There's the gender issues that we're trying to overcome. So it's just marketing yourself. It will be something good. And it's not always positive, because you're trying to build a positive community that helps both sides.
Great. We have a question from Heather Johnson. So she would like to know, how do you fund your meetups, and do you have a membership fee?
So we charge $5 to $10 per meetup. So that does a couple things. It helps us ensure people actually come, because, you know, if you pay, you're probably going to show up. But then the other thing is that is what we use to pay for food. Sometimes we have to reserve a space if we can't find one for free. It's just hard in the Bay Area. So at the end of the day, we definitely are not profitable by any means, but we kind of see it more as like a co-op that we all kind of like pay into and support just the actual like logistics of like running the event. So we haven't had any issues with that, and we've always, you know, offered, if somebody can't afford to pay $5 or $10, that we'll, you know, of course, still let them come. So that's worked really well for us.
So really early on, we got a She Talks Data grant, and that really helped us set up some of the logistics components that Erin had kind of alluded to, like a meetup. But a lot of the things we do strategically to stay really cheap are to kind of raid coffee shops, right? To make it more of an informal thing, as opposed to having a space or having food, because that makes it much more difficult sometimes to be able to continue at the cadence that you want, and to be able to see the people and to continue to have those conversations. So we've tried to make a little bit of grant money go a long way, and really keeping it small has helped to ensure that we can continue to have conversations.
We've had some events to actually get cross-sourcing fund, because we had to have computers for high school students to actually log in and then play with Tableau and learn Tableau. So we've done that kind of event, and if you reach out to your network, you'll be very surprised how people are very generous. Also, we reached out to different companies to see whether they were willing to give their space or some funding for the event. So just don't be afraid to ask, and start talking to people. And that I think different companies will offer different things, and just, you know, keeping that in a good account, and you know, making sure you're respectful, and then your support will be continuing. And also partnering with like different foundations or different events that will open up the opportunities.
All right. Have you had a favorite event that you've hosted, and why was it your favorite?
So one lesson I learned from organizing this is that sometimes when you put yourself out there, good things happen. So one of my favorite events was we, like Julie's mentioned, we teamed up with a nonprofit in DC to create a data analytics workshop for teens. And we knew we wanted to do this, but we didn't actually have a school lined up. And the logistics just weren't really working out. But we still had an event where we crowdsourced ideas for the workshop from the Data+Women community in DC. And we had about 20 people attend the event. And essentially, these 20 people were talking about, talking essentially to themselves as teens about what they wish they knew about, what they wish they had learned about data when they were a teen. And so we, from that brainstorming event, we used sticky notes and everything like that. We actually were able to create the outline for our analytics workshop. And the other good thing is someone that attended that event, they because we had the event, they knew that we were wanting to do this, and they helped connect us with an organizer of a hackathon through the DC government, and that was the first time we held the workshop. So I mean, I don't think that would have happened as smoothly if we hadn't have had that event and really put ourselves out there that, hey, we want to do this thing. Like, can you help us? So I thought that was pretty cool.
So I'll say kind of one of my favorite things that I've ever done with the Data+Women community actually was the Fringe Festival last year. I hosted a panel discussion of women in data, and it was actually really powerful, not only for getting to have people here kind of see those different people, some people that were maybe less visible, but there were a lot of private conversations that went on as I was trying to help facilitate and coordinate it that really were very meaningful for me. And that's exactly what I'm trying to get at when I think about the Data+Women community, the authenticity, the honesty, the candidness around some things that are maybe less comfortable to talk about, and making sure that that is something that everyone knows that I am very much supportive and welcoming and there to be a support, if nothing else, or an ear, a shoulder or an ear to listen to whatever it is. So that's probably been my favorite thing that I've ever done related to the Data+Women community.
There were many favorite moments, but one of the moments that I particularly remember today is that we went to a high school and we participated in an event, and where actually we encouraged students to come and create the visualization right then by answering questions. And they were excited about it. They're, I think, 7, 8 years old to 12 years old, and just, you know, seeing them smile and being able to create something right then, that kind of moments, and also talking about, you know, what kind of data field that they can actually pursue. Talking about those kind of things is helpful, as well as, you know, talking to other professional events, like for other professional events, to talking to other folks to share ideas, and you know, just sharing your own challenges, and also just the way that you're able to overcome, and you see the light in them, you know, that was for me.
I'd say my favorite thing that She Talks Data did this year was partnering to support Data+Women grant to go to the conference. We sponsored 2 women, one from India, one from the US. And it was just really humbling to see the community come together and donate, as well as the applications that came in, and hearing women's stories, and just like the phenomenal work that so many people were doing and were so deserving to go to the conference, and to be able to help facilitate getting somebody there was amazing. And they had such a wonderful time. Like, I think it was really like transformative for them. So to see them so excited at the conference and like tweeting and taking pictures with so many people, it was just really amazing to see that come together.
Awesome. So you just touched a little bit on the community. What do you think the community could do to help Data+Women and market it more?
Oh, I'm going to go out. I'm going to say something really wild. I said this, I think, coming out of the Tableau conference. I would love to see the Data+Women Meetup session at conference exist as a keynote. I think that would do wonders if we did nothing else, if we just advocated for that to be a conversation that everybody that 17 to 20,000 people actually did, that would really help generate a lot of buzz around the movement and help take it from, as I'm saying, these sidebars to really the center stage. So that's kind of the one thing that I would advocate for.
I would advocate for finding somebody in your workplace or in your community that you can sponsor and really support and be there for and advocate for. It's great to get involved online, and this is a very powerful community. But even if you just impact one person's life personally, you can make such a big difference. So I would just think about who's around you that you might be able to support and offer your wisdom or your resources that you have available to you, because there's so many people out there who need that support. So think about somebody near you that you might be able to develop a stronger relationship with and support.
I would advocate for sessions for next year for Data+Women to hold an interviewing session so they get some practice before they actually talk to different companies for their jobs. A little bit more practical things. We talked about it before, but we weren't able to do that in the past. We've done some resume reviewing, but also doing offering interview mock-up, and also more practical sessions, and also dealing with more kids and encouraging the data and play games with them, and more sessions like that is making it fun. And it matters to not only to professionals and everyone, encouraging the STEM education. That's what I would advocate.
Cool. I think the community has been really supportive in donating money for some of these different things, and donating a lot of support. One thing that would be pretty cool is if you don't have a Data+Women meetup group in your area, maybe working with a tug organizer to put together a session or something. I know Anne was saying that the tug might not be quite the right place, but maybe just one session or something like that. I think they did that in London. That seemed pretty interesting.
Awesome. We have a question from Eva Murray. What tips do you have for changing the conversation in the workplace? Emily just deleted it. Have you had to remind people that not everyone is a guy? And what did you find were the most effective ways to make people rethink the language they use day to day?
I would say just start. Start. It's uncomfortable calling people out, or just even having just side conversations and just making people aware of how something they did or said made you feel or could have made somebody else feel. And that was the hardest thing for me. I think once I just had enough courage to have that dialogue and to just share how I'm feeling and my beliefs, it made it so much easier, but you just have to start.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important to speak your truth and be honest about whatever it is, right? So if you're participating in a project and you have a really good idea and you feel like it's steamrolled, something I kind of used to do more, and I've tried to navigate away from that, is using humor to diffuse the situation. And I found that doesn't really get the results that I want. A better path for me has really been to take one or two people aside, maybe those people are my advocates, and really tell them how it made me feel, ask them from their perspective, did they see it, what did it look like, and use that as a way to help kind of transform the conversation and the way things are working in my workplace. I say that, and then I also say that I became my own boss to kind of avoid some of those things. So it's kind of, there's a happy balance to find there, but I always think that honesty and really approaching it without any sort of humor is the best approach to those kinds of things, but not doing it in a grand stage where you're going to embarrass someone and throw up defense mechanisms.
I use feedback sessions with my supervisors or the partners of the company to make sure that they understand where you're coming from. So you gain advocates, you gain support from them. So when things like that happen, things like when guys are using the wrong terms or something that you don't feel comfortable about, then you are in the platform where you can freely talk about, no, that's not right, and then you can correct them. Or it's a lighter matter though, so they are just reminded that that we work together, and there are many, actually, I think it's like 52, I might be wrong with that percentage of women are getting more education, and you're going to expect that. So just having that conversation and main focus, and reach out to other female managers too and see how they have overcome so far. That's been helpful for me to understand what I need to do in a workplace. And also when I talk about Data Plus Women event and the issues that we're dealing with other male colleagues, they actually ask questions, and they then we have open dialogue about different issues that I feel and that I gain understanding from them as well. So just open communication.
So I think that you answered this a little bit, but Lindsay brought up a point about how her team, the majority is women. So how has, I guess, the ratio of men to women on, your current job or at previous jobs, how has that affected, the workplace environment?
In my workplace, I think it's like 80-20, like 20% are women and 80% are male. But at the same time that I provide solutions, and I provide technical solutions to many folks. They come to me for answers. So I think it really matters to what you do. You just do it well, and the ratio becomes less important because they acknowledge for what you do, acknowledge for the solutions that you bring, the value. So, and again, like open communication with, having that is important, but also showing that what women can do. It's been helping my career, and they come to me for solutions. So that's what I would suggest, to do well and then reach out.
I think for me, some of my challenges haven't been on my team makeup, but actually who we're working with. And so it does take a little, like Julie was saying, it takes a little bit, it can take some time to build the trust with the clients that you're working with. But keep at it. Don't get beat down. That's my advice. I'm also eager to listen to other people's advice from this panel. I'm learning a lot.
I've worked on pretty diverse teams gender-wise, but as a consultant, there was a lot of situations I was put in where I was on a predominantly male team. And in one scenario, I recall like myself and the other female on the team, we were kind of feeling like our voices weren't heard in meetings, and some of the work that we would present that we created, when people would ask questions or want to see more, they would tend to direct it at our male colleagues on our team and not at us, even though we were the creators of what we were presenting. So together, we basically kind of helped each other out, where in meetings, we would kind of make sure if one of us brought up a point that was skipped over or somebody else raised afterwards, that the other person could call and say, Britt, that was a good idea you had before. Like, oh, I agree with you, Britt. Just having that person that you pre-planned to like help support and like raise each other's voices up really helped when I was on a team like that, and I was feeling like my voice was kind of dampened.
So I would say that most of my professional career, it's been more male dominated. I think I'm kind of someone that tends to stand out. So to some degree, I use that to my advantage in situations, which I encourage you to do if you're thinking about it. If you are the only woman in the room, that's kind of an opportunity to be memorable. I'd say most of my professional experience where it's really come down to more of something gender related beyond just male dominance really has to do with who I was reporting to. I've had really good male managers, leaders who have helped channel, I'd say, some of my more direct, aggressive personality traits and use that to their advantage. But I've also, on the flip end of that, had some female managers who've really tried to coach me into being much less vocal about things. And so I think there's trade-offs in both, and I've seen kind of the good and bad from both people being kind of my manager, and you have to kind of find what works for you in that situation. But it's certainly something I'm always very conscious of, but I really try to move past it and somehow go beyond that and try to be memorable in the way that I want to be memorable.
All right, so I'm going to move a little bit back towards the Data+Women events since we took a little segue, which was great. But what kind of feedback have you had from the people who have attended your events? Like, what are they looking to gain from attending?
I think what I've heard is, you know, really the first thing is connection. I think everyone is looking to understand that they are not alone. So that's step one is connection. And then kind of as a result of connection, what I've really loved as well is seeing how people have progressed over the years. I mean, you know, people directly in our Data+Women group in the extended community to see how much they've changed over the course of their career. And a lot of it has really been fueled by the conversations that we're able to have during those sessions, during those meetups, to help change the entire path or direction that their professional career goes in. So that's really been huge, I think.
We get a lot of positive feedback on our size. Like a lot of people saying like, oh my God, this is great. Like I loved being able to talk to these people and meet so-and-so. We've had people who have been able to actually get jobs through referrals of somebody they've met at our meetup. So it was really surprising. All the things that we worried would cause our meetup to fail were the things that people like loved. So don't underestimate your idea, even if it's different than what else is happening in your area. Because it might be with what everyone else needs to, but nobody stood up and like took the initiative to start it. So play to your uniqueness.
Nice. I think sometimes people come to our meetups to learn about new tools and kind of see what else is out there and kind of stay abreast of what other kinds of stuff is going on in the data world. Other times they go to the meetup to get a new job or to get help with job searching. So I think I think there's different reasons why people go to the meetups, and other times it is for the connection, like Anthony said.
Another thing is the people look for mentorship. So I think we have a good example within the Data+Women. The active participants become mentees and mentors. I think that's what they're looking for too. So that's one thing we were able to facilitate.
Yeah.
And do you have any events for this coming year that you're particularly excited about, or any ideas that you would like to share for future events?
I think for us, we were thinking of how can we be more impactful. So we're always thinking about impact, right? So like we love creating communities and having important conversations, but I think in 2019, something I'm excited to think about more is how can we maybe do things like you guys mentioned, like working with high school students, or like actually getting out there and taking action and having events, or like volunteering and doing more engagement in that way versus meetups and just like speakers and talking. So I'm excited to take more measurable action in 2019.
I think it's kind of TBD from my perspective. One thing I've been really conscious of over the past year is shifting priorities and not taking it as another meetup, another thing that people have to go to when there's already a busy schedule. So I'm trying to figure out ways to allow people to have that opportunity to participate and it not be such a thing where it's like, now I have 50 things on my schedule every month or whatever to deal with. So I'm more thinking of what are two really huge things that we can do in 2019 that will have a lasting impression and really be good fuel for what it is that we're trying to do.
For DC group also is TBD. We have a lot. We have 4 people that we pointed together, so we need to kind of get together and continuing what we are doing and what we've done in the past, and maybe reaching out more to different schools and different network and different foundations. But we are open to ideas, so we actually ask for our Data+Women members to give us ideas too. So we need to hold those sessions for 2019.
And Emily wants to know, does a Data+Women meetup need to be formal, or can it be just gathering of folks to meet and connect?
So we had sometimes we just do happy hours where we reserve some tables somewhere. And one that was actually, I thought, pretty successful was we had tables at a bar, and you didn't have to drink or anything, but tables at a bar, and then we would kind of shift seats every 15, 20 minutes or so. And that was a really good way to meet new people, and some people that were looking at making career changes were getting advice from people that had already made career changes. So I thought that was pretty cool, and it didn't cost us anything, and it was pretty easy to plan, and we had maybe 20 people there.
So I think I would say definitely, obviously, I'm someone who says it doesn't have to be completely formal. I don't even think it necessarily, what I try not to do for myself is to say I'm not contributing to the Data+Women community because I don't have an event on a calendar through the Meetup platform, right? If I'm making a conscious effort to connect with someone or go have coffee and it's just a one-on-one conversation, that's still a Data+Women event initiative where you're doing things to propel people forward. So I absolutely believe it doesn't have to be something completely formally thought out. And that can also become somewhat of a hindrance to keep doing what it is that you want to be doing.
Yeah, I think it can be any kinds of events. It's really up to you how you want to plan it. You can start one thing, and if you don't like it, you can change things around. And you know, if you're lucky like me, I have 3 other organizers, so they have different ideas. We can come together and try to do this in this time or that time. So really be open-minded. It's just about connection and then making, you know, a group of people get together to, you know, do what we were passionate about and passing the passion. So feel free.
All right, so for everybody who is now super motivated and wants to go and start their own Data+Women meetup group, where can they find information? Can they contact you? Anything like that?
So we have we made like a little starter kit for like starting a chapter. So whether, you know, you want to, whatever you want to even call your group, it doesn't have to be She Talks Data. It can be, you know, Data+Women or your own creative name. I'm more than happy to share with folks who would like to see that, the like little starter kit we put together. So you can reach out to me directly on Twitter, or if you go to shetalksdata.com, there's a contact form. I think there's even like it says like start your own chapter. If you get your contact information there, we can send you those materials that we prepared.
Yeah, we have a website, data+women.com. I think all of our Twitter handles and emails might be there. So I think we're all open to emails and any suggestions. So we are active on Twitter, as Brit mentioned. So just reach out. We don't have a kit, but I might reach out for the kit actually.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'll just add, you can find me pretty much on whatever social media platform that's out there. That's probably the most direct way to get in contact with me quite quickly, actually. So don't hesitate, even if it's just like, hey, what is it that you did last year? Or do you have any advice? Or can you put me in contact with someone? I mean, coming out of this, I mean, obviously a great thing I can always do is point people back to She Talks Data and say, hey, there's a starter kit out there that you can do. And just helping, I think, grow that is going to be something that I'd be more than happy to do. So I'm always open to entertaining any sort of messages.
Yeah, please feel free to reach out. You can also take a look. You could, if you search on Meetup, you can find some descriptions of previous events for both our group and I know the London group and probably other groups. So that's another another thing you can do to get ideas. But we're also happy to tell you about which ones we thought worked better than others and tips like that.
And where do you want Data+Women to go as a whole? Like how do you think these groups fit into the overarching picture, and what do you want to see happen in the future?
I'd love to see even more groups because I do love the conference, but it's just such a bummer that it's, that one time a year we get to see everyone and go to the amazing events. And I just think it's so important to like your own like mental like health well-being to have like that group of people where you are at. So I'd love to see everyone have the opportunity to find like their own little tribe wherever they may be.
I'd like to see more male colleagues and friends joining as well as part of the organizers. I know it's a Data+Women event, but I think men being there means a lot, actually. So there might be opening up for other men to participate and understand what Data+Women is about. So that's what I would like to advocate everyone to join. If you have a daughters and wife or significant others, they might be going through similar things, so they encourage them to participate as well.
And I think I've kind of said, like, I'd love to see the Data+Women events integrated into the large keynote at the Tableau conference, because I think it's the first step. And to think about women being one of the biggest kind of chunk of diversity when you think about a workforce and you think about technology, but there's other groups and there's more diversity than that. It's just gender related. So I think by integrating it in there, that's a good first step. But certainly I want, if anything, the takeaway to be, don't feel like there's anything inhibiting you from getting started and having conversations with people locally, with women. That has honestly probably been the most impactful thing that I've done for myself over the last 3 years. And I think you'll probably see the same thing as a result.
Kind of just to echo what everyone else is saying, yeah, more groups in more cities would be really interesting and help out. And then also more opportunities like this for connecting between cities. So maybe even a listserv or Google group or something like that. I think that would be pretty cool to have more of these conversations globally as well as locally.
All right, and lastly, any words of encouragement for people starting their own groups or anything else that you'd like to add?
Whatever you do is the right thing. There is no wrong. The path you choose is the right path. So, take people's advice for what it's worth. It's their advice, it's their opinion based on their experience. You know what you want to do, go forth and do it.
Yeah, and I feel like people tend to wait also for like the timing to be right, but there's never gonna be like, now is the right time, right? So you don't have to like wait. You don't have to wait till January. Like, I know it's close to January, but it's not like you have to wait until then to start a group or to start talking with others. You can do like what Anne said, just put out a call out there to meet up at a coffee shop, and then you don't have to reserve a space. You don't have to pay for food. You just show up and meet people. So yeah.
If you put yourself out there, good things come, and you can't always predict what kinds of things will happen. But yeah, this is organizing this group has been a really great experience for me, socially and professionally, and I've really learned a lot from my co-organizers and from the events themselves. So I'm really grateful to be a part of it.
Yeah, likewise, I've gained a lot from organizing and then meeting all those organizers. I'm also from other cities like Anne, Brit, and all other. It's international chapters that we're creating. It's small. It can start small, but also it's part of the global group. So I really feel proud of that everyone getting together, and it's about you get what you put in, you will get, and also you get in much more because you're making the connections and you learn from other people. And I think what a better way to do it. I know, it's just like Brit said, now is the time.
Awesome. We have a couple more minutes if anyone else has additional questions. Now is your chance. And if there aren't more questions, then I guess I will hand it back to Emily and Caesar.
All right, great. Thank you so much to our awesome panel. I really appreciated everybody coming on and sharing their perspective. I think that that's really helpful. We started having this, I think at conference this year in particular, we had the brain dates, and that was really informative. There was a brain date about starting your own Data+Women meetup. And so not everybody could go to the brain date. So we thought it would be really helpful to bring the brain date to TFF. Or since brain date's an actual thing, we'll just call it, a mentoring session with some of the people who have started their own Data+Women or whatever you want to call it chapter. And I think the other thing that one of the other reasons why I really liked this session, this panel, is because while we talk about Data+Women, it really could be data plus whatever you want it to be. Our experiences are from the Data+Women side of things, but it doesn't exclude the possibility of doing some other kind of Data Plus or somebody talks data kind of meetup. So thank you all so much for sharing that. I am going to share my screen for a minute. Let's see here. And I'll share my desktop because as you all may know, we have our first sponsor this year, which is a new thing for TFF, and we're really trying to make it super valuable for you all and just really provide some great content. So I would love to just share a little bit about Playfair Data. They are just a really great organization that provides super Tableau training, tips, and tutorials. So if you haven't seen this little clip, I do want to show you kind of what you could expect from meeting Playfair Data.
Data, it's everywhere today. Thanks to technology, you can gather endless amounts from countless sources and store more than you ever could before. But how does all this become useful for you and your business? That's where we come in. We are Playfair Data, and our mission is to be the best partner resource for turning data into valuable insights. We are a network of award-winning Tableau Zen masters with the experience and perspective to see data like no one else. We know how to discover hidden patterns, dive deep using the best analytics, and extract real value from the data with meaningful visualizations. So you can clearly see the patterns that affect your business and make the right decisions for the future, maximizing the return on your investment in data. Let us partner with you through our dashboard creation, analytics consulting, and Tableau training programs. Contact us today.
Great. So super excited that Playfair Data, through their sponsorship, they've also offered everybody participating or attending TFF, they have offered a $50 off of their lifetime membership to playfairdata.tv. So that the code for that is TFFNA, and that code is good until January 31st, 2019. So I was really happy when Ryan and the team offered that up because, I love conferences like this, and we provide certainly videos through YouTube based on these sessions. To have that learning opportunity there, and I think $150 for a lifetime subscription is just amazing. So I would encourage you all to check that out. I know I certainly will be. Okay. So I just want to give another shout out to Ryan and team at playfairdata.tv for their support. It really, really does mean a lot. And I'm so excited to see how we can make TFF even more valuable for everybody. So with that, I will, Caesar will I'll turn it over to Caesar and he'll introduce our next speaker.